I'm also recording for some people who aren't here, okay? So if you don't have a calculator with you, grab your calculator. We're gonna be working together. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. All right. So now that I'm sharing my screen, I can't see who's stuck in the waiting room. So if someone messages you and says I'm stuck in the waiting room, just give me a shout, okay? Alrighty, kiddos, shall we get started? All right, so this is our first question, okay? Aneska borrows 2,000 Rand. She will pay it off at 120 Rand per month at an interest rate of 13% per annum compounded monthly. Okay, so first question, how long will it take to repay the loan? What is the value of the final payment? Okay, right, so with loans, we always use the present value formula, okay? Present value formula, this is on your formula sheet. Looks like this. Divided by your I. All right. So let's see what we have. They've given us P, right? That's our P. This is our X, all right? This is our I, okay. We're gonna plug those in and we then want to solve for N, okay, to work out how long it will take to repay. Okay, so let's plug these into our formula. So this becomes 2,000 is equal to the X value, like we said, is 120, 1 minus 1 plus I. Okay, this is how I prefer writing my I. 0.13, because that's 13%, divided by 12, since we're compounding monthly. This is going to be raised to the power of negative N. And we divide everything by 0.13 divided by 12. Okay, so just by substituting N everything in the correct place, you will get a mark for that. All right, now we want to solve for N. Okay, so since we're dividing by the 0.13 divided by 12, we're now going to multiply by the 0.13 divided by 12. We were multiplying by 120, so we're going to divide by 120. So these are just inverse operations, okay? Then you're left with 1 minus 1 plus 0.13 divided by 12 raised to the power of negative N. Okay, so at this point, right, you can simplify what you have on the left-hand side, right? When you do that, you get 13 over 72. Okay, so you don't have to convert that into a decimal. You can leave it like that, right? This is equal to your 1 minus 1 plus 0.13 divided by 12 raised to the power of negative. Okay, so what can I do at this point? I can bring this over to the other side and then that over to this side. Okay, so 1 plus 0.13 divided by 12 raised to the power of negative N. 1 minus your 13 over 72. Okay, so I'm at the point where I now have the 59 over 72 this side, okay? And I'm left with this on this side. What can I do at this stage to solve for N?
Logs.
Right, so we're going to take log both sides, right? So what you do to the one side, you do exactly the same thing to the other side. When you do that, this basically pulls your negative N down. You now have negative N here, and the log 12 equal to your log 59 over 72, right? At this stage, different teachers work in different ways, but it's literally the same thing. Okay, so you want to still isolate your negative N. So you're going to divide both sides by log 0.13 divided by 12. So what you do to the one side, you do exactly the same thing to the other side. Now at this point, you can now plug everything into your calculator. Okay. I'll give you a second. So negative n equals what? What do you guys get?
I got negative 18,48.
So for this one, remember, write everything out because you're probably going to need to use the decimal portion, right? So I'm going to write everything out, okay, as I got it. So this means that the total number of payments, what's the total number of payments? N is equal to?
9, isn't it 19 in total?
Perfect, okay, so total of 19 months. Okay, what does this mean? It means that we're going to have 18 months where we're paying the full 120, okay? Then 1 month is going to be less than 120, okay? All right. So total number of payments, 19 months, okay? 18 months of full 120, and there'll be 1 month that's less than 120. Now, onto the second part of the question, final payment. Okay, so again, different teachers teach different methods. The method that I'm going to show you is well, to me, it's simpler and it's shorter, okay? So when you're working with final payments, you're still going to use your present value formula, but there's something you just need to add at the very end. So for the final payment, okay, still using the present value formula, right? Raised to the power of negative n divided by your I, but that last amount is still going to earn interest over that 1 month that's left. Okay, so now this is what we're going to use to work out our final payment. Okay, so our X doesn't change, it's still 120 Rand. We now plug in all the other values that also remain unchanged, but this time where we see N or negative N, what do you guys think we're going to put?
Isn't it the decimal?
Perfect. We're going to put the decimal portion of this. Okay, so this is now negative 0.8049401 or 01. Okay. Okay, so close brackets, right? 1 plus your I, which is 0.13 divided by 12. But don't forget that this formula as well, you still have to divide by that. Okay. Any questions regarding this so far?
No. Ma'am, why are we adding the extra one?
As in this, yeah.
Yes, as in that.
Okay, so the reason why we add that, right? Remember, this is now at almost the very last part, right? So T final, and then this is, or Tn, which is the final point, and then this is Tn minus 1. At this point, okay, the amount that's outstanding is still going to earn interest here, okay? So that's why we then multiply it by the 1 plus I. It shows that we understand that that final payment or the outstanding value is still going to earn interest. We also have to pay back that interest that it's earning, okay? Okay, so interest is still earned at this point. That's why we add in the 1 plus I, okay? Oh, what do you guys get as your answer? Any volunteers? So it's definitely going to be less than 120, okay? What do you guys get? Any volunteers or you guys? Yeah?
I got 57,82.
Brilliant. Yeah, I got that as well. Okay. All right. So that's our first question. I gave you the formula for the final payment. It must always include this last interest portion, right? And to work out months, okay, it's even if this part here is less than 5, okay, you still round up and you say 19 months because it's 18 months, full payments of 120, and 1 month that is less than 120. Okay, may I go on to the next question? Any questions regarding this so far?
No, man.
All right. Okay, now this one. Tsepo takes out a home loan over 20 years to buy a house that costs 1.5 million. Calculate the monthly installment if interest is charged at 10.5% per annum compounded monthly. And then we want to calculate the balance outstanding after 144 payments. Okay, so again, like I said, when you see loans, okay, always going to use the present value formula. Okay, so for this one, present value formula, the P is 1.5. We need to find what X is. We have our interest here, okay? So, and our N is 20 years. If we're compounding monthly, what should we do to this 20 years? We're going to
Multiply by 12.
brilliant. So that we have a total payments being equal to 240. All right, so let's plug it into our formula. Again, still the same formula, x1 minus 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n, close brackets, divide everything by I. Okay, 1.5 million here. X is what we're looking for. Where I see I, okay, I usually just write it at 0.105, then I divide by 12, it's compounded monthly, raised to the power of negative 240, like that, okay? Divide everything by 0.105 divided by 12. Okay, again, idea is to isolate X. If we were dividing by I, that means we're now going to have to multiply by the I. Okay. Then we're going to do the inverse of the other one. This was a numerator. It's now going to become a denominator. 1 minus 0.5 divided by 12 raised to the power of negative 240. Okay. Right, plug it into your calculators. What do you guys get? Okay. So where I put brackets, also make sure that you put brackets there. Okay, so after the division sign, put your brackets, or you can do the numerator first, then the denominator, then you solve it. What do you guys get? So the reason why I'm asking you guys to work it out is so if you get a wrong answer, I'm able to tell you where you may have gone wrong. Any volunteers? What's your answer?
I get 14,975,7.
Perfect. There we go. All done. So that's the monthly repayment. Okay. We're going to use this to answer 7.2. 7.2 was calculate the outstanding balance immediately after the 144th payment was made. Okay, so like I said, different teachers do this section differently, right? But I like to just use the same present value formula and work out the time remaining. So calculate the balance outstanding immediately after the 144th payment. So now let's figure out if they've made 144 payments, right? Remember the total payments are 240, they've made 144, okay? That means time remaining is, what do you guys get?
96.
Right, so now this is what we're going to use to work out our outstanding balance, okay? So key equals, we're using the same monthly payment that we just found, okay? same interest rate, and it's compounded monthly. This time, where you see N, you're putting in the time left. Okay. 0,105 divided by 12 in the denominator. Okay. Balance outstanding after the 144 payment. I'll let you work it out. And then you tell me what you get once you've worked this out. Any volunteers?
I got 969,927,74.
Awesome. Well done. I also got that. All right. So that is your balance outstanding. Okay. So important things, right? Balance outstanding. You're still using the present value formula. The difference this time, you need to work out the time left. Okay. So which is what we did first off, right? Then you plug in your monthly payments. You plug in your time left, and then you work out your final answer. Okay. Awesome. So in terms of finance, that's everything from the finance section. Yesterday we did deferred annuities. Okay. So now we're going to go on to analytical geometry. Okay. Alrighty. So 10.1. So this is our question, right? Question 10. The diagram below shows a circle with center O at the origin. So the center is at the origin, okay? AB is the diameter, okay, of the circle, and EBD is a tangent to the circle at B, all right? Determine the coordinates of A. Several ways of working out what A is. Any ideas? What should I do to work out possible?
We can use the midpoint of the center.
Perfect.
So it's 0, 0.
Well done. We can use the midpoint. What's another way?
Ma'am, couldn't you take the gradients of OB and BE and then multiply to get -1, but then like, oh wait, no, I don't know actually.
Okay, good try. So we can use the midpoint formula, right? We can also just look at what, since we know that this is a diameter, right? So we know that whatever you do to get from this point B, right? You'd go back how many units to get to the y-axis? You would go -3, right? To get to 0, right? Then what would you do to get from this point here all the way to the origin now? You would go up.
Yes.
Perfect, right? Same thing, to get from this 0 to this point here, what would you do? You would also go minus,
Back 3.
and then up how many? 4. So what's the coordinate? -3 and 4. Okay, so that's the easiest way. If we use the midpoint formula, right, we would then say, okay, I know that my xm is equal to x1 plus 2 divided by 2. Okay, now midpoint is 0. I need to work out what x1 is. I know what x2 is. It's plus. Okay, solve for x1. So that means multiply both sides by 2. Electron 0 equals x1 plus 3. Therefore, x1 is equal to negative. Same process with ym, right? Y1 plus y2 divided by 2. We know it's 0 as well. We don't know what y1 is. Y2 was -4. Okay, divided by 2. Multiply both sides by 2. Okay, We have y1 minus 4 here. That means y1 is equal to 4. That's how we get those coordinates. Okay, so if you can't see it straight away, use the midpoint formula, you'll get to the answer.
Ma'am.
Yellow.
For that question, ma'am, if you can just see it, do you get both marks for just writing the coordinates, or do you have to show working out?
So you're going to get both marks just for showing the coordinates. You don't have to show working out.
Thanks, ma'am.
Alrighty. So that was 10.1. 10.2. Determine the equation of the circle passing through A, B, and C. So for this question, right? Look at the information they tell you, or if you look at the diagram you have there, right? They tell us that the circle has center at which point?
The origin.
Right. So if it's at the origin, straight away we know that, so I'm now doing 10.2, it's going to be x plus 0 squared plus y plus 0 squared, or minus, it's the same, okay, which is equal to your r squared. Okay, so you could write it like that, or you say x minus, because it's the origin, it doesn't matter, right? So this simplifies to x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. We now need to work out what the radius is. So radius from center O to B. How would I work out what that radius is?
Distance formula.
Distance formula.
And
Mhm.
why would you do this?
Yeah, so okay, you don't, so which other way could you work it out if it's not distance formula?
Stop in the points at the circumference.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's also, it's
Into-
literally the same thing. Okay, so you can either do distance or you plug in the points at the circumference. You're going to get the exact same answer. If I use distance formula,
Yeah.
okay, this is going to be, because we're using 0, 0 as the other point, okay? Then here you're going to have 0 minus 3 squared, and 0 minus minus, this becomes positive squared. So what you have here is 9 plus 16 square root of 25. So that's 5. But remember, if it's r squared, it's just, you square that, so you keep the 25. So x squared plus y squared is equal to 25. Okay. Or like you said, you could have just plugged in those values there. We could have said, okay, the x is 3 squared plus the y, which is negative 4 squared. That will give us our r squared. Okay. Different ways of getting to the same answer. Okay. So we've determined the equation of the circle passing through ABC. We now want to write down the length of AB. So radius, we said we worked it out already. Radius is 5. Okay,
5.
so to work out AB, which is our diameter. Okay, what would I say?
5 plus 5.
Okay, 5 plus 5, or you say 2 times radius, which is 2 times 5, which is just 10.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Now, given that AD, is square root of 125. Okay. If AD is square root of 125, calculate the length of BD. Important part here says with reasons, right? So AD square root of 125. BD is what we're looking for. We just worked out that AB is 10. Right. You guys tell me, what are the reasons?
Pythagoras.
Okay, yes, but before we say Pythagoras, we need another reason.
Oh, line from diameter perpendicular to the tangent.
Okay, so the reason,
Radius.
yeah, so the reason is tan perpendicular to radius, okay? That's how we know that OBD is equal to 90 degrees. So instead of writing radius there, you could have
Mhm.
also written diameter. Okay, so tan perpendicular to radius or tan perpendicular to your diameter. All right. Now, so that's the first thing. You have to state this before you state Pythagoras. Now we can use Pythagoras, right? We can say, okay, AD squared is equal to AB squared plus BD squared. The reason is Pythagoras. Okay. Again, for writing Pythag, you're going to get a mark for that. And remember, it's not Pythag. We're going to write Pythagoras in 4. Okay. So let's plug in what we have. Square root of 125, but we square that. AB, that's 10 squared. That's our BD squared. Okay, balancing method. BD squared is equal to 125 minus 100. So BD squared, that's 25. BD is therefore equal to 5. Okay. So we just worked out that we have 5 there. Then calculate the area of triangle ABD. This one is easy peasy. Area equals half the base multiplied by the height. So the base was 5, your height 10. Okay. So area is 25 units squared. Right, now on to this other stuff here. 10.6, determine the angle of inclination of the line AB. Okay, so line AB is this one here, right?
Mhm.
We know that this center is 0, 0. So first things first, what should I do to work out the angle of inclination?
The gradient, right?
Right, gradient, because we know that m is equal to tan theta. All right, so gradient, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So I'm gonna label this, the 3 as my x2, that's y2, and then that's x1, y1. So negative 4 minus 0, and then 3 minus 0. So my gradient here is negative 4 over 3. Okay. After I've worked out this m, right, I can now say, okay, negative 4 over 3, which is your m, is equal to tan theta. Inverse tan both sides. What do we get? Okay, so the answer we get here is negative 53,13. Okay, 2 decimal places. Is this the correct answer?
No,
No.
No.
Okay, so what should I do to get to the correct answer?
add 180.
Plus 180.
All right, plus 180, which then gives us 126,87. Okay. Now, hypothetically speaking, right? If they had asked you to work out what the gradient of the tangent at the point B, what would I have done at that point? What would the gradient of the tangent be?
3 over 4.
Would it be 3 over 4, yeah.
Right. It would be 3 over 4 because it's just the inverse of that multiplied by negative 1. Good. All right, then, right, this question here. If another circle is drawn with center O, so it has the same center. First part, determine the length of its radius if F is a point on the circle and OF divided by OB is square root 3. Okay, so let's go and visualize what this is going to look like.
Yeah, let's visualize.
Right. So I'm going to erase this. Now, they say there's another circle, right? It has the same center. Okay, they said OF divided by OB. So I'm going to put the point F here. Same center, which is 0, 0. Remember, we worked out what OB was. OB was 5 units long. Now, they say if OF divided by OB is equal to √3, what would the radius of this biggest circle be? Let's say O to F. What would the radius be? What should I do? So we have OB over OF. Okay, so that's the first thing. Let me write it here. So OF divided by OB is equal to √3. √3 can be written as a fraction by writing it as √3 over 1. So this is a proportion, right? There's something that we know. Remember we said, okay, we know what OB is, but we don't know what OF is. Okay, so in place of OF, I'm going to put the unknown. Okay, X, I don't know what it is. But initially, remember we worked out OB as 5. It's the same proportion, √3 over 1. So to solve for OF or to solve for X, I should multiply both sides by 5. So OF or X is equal to 5 √3. That is the radius of this bigger circle. Okay, what did we do? We used proportion. Okay, OF over OB is equal to √3 over 1. We then plugged in what we knew. We knew that OB was 5. So that's why we put 5 in place of OB. OF was the unknown, so we left it there. So that's your radius. Then second part, yes?
Sorry, ma'am. Is it necessary to switch OF to X, or can you just leave it?
No, you can leave it as OF.
OF?
Yeah, leave it as OF. Good. Then the next part is hence determine the equation of the circle. All right. Remember, they've told us already that it has the same center. If it has the same center, 0, 0, that means we have x squared plus y squared. Now, radius squared, we just worked out the radius. This is 5 √3. You just need to square it. So x squared plus y squared. 5 √3 squared is equal to 75. There we go, people. Whew. Okay, there's something in the chat. Yes. So Zoe, for angle of inclination, you only add 180 if you have a negative. All right. So that's everything from me. We've got 5 minutes. Do you guys have any requests?
Ma'am, can we go over this last question? If
Which
you
one?
don't mind, like, can you please like read the last question? The one we just did right now with the
Okay.
OF over OB, please.
Okay, cool.
So I'm not quite understanding.
All right, no problem. So with this question that we did, right? They gave you a proportion, okay? The proportion was that the radius of OF divided by the radius of OB. So let me just write it out. So the radius of OF divided by the radius of OB gives us a proportion that is equal to √3 over 1. Okay, so that's the proportion it gives us. How did they get to this proportion? We needed to have the values of the actual radii. This time, what they're doing is, okay, they've given you the only thing you know is the radius of OB because we worked it out earlier, right? So I can then say, okay, since I know what the radius of OB was, we said it was 5, right? But we don't know what the radius of OF was. But what have they done? They've given us a proportion, right? Which is √3 over 1. So that means given the proportion and another value that I do know, I can work out what OF is. Therefore, my value for OF, I'm just going to cross multiply is 5 √3. Okay. So let's say, to explain it differently, right? So if they say you have a circle like that, and they tell you that, okay, this radius in the center is 2, then the radius of the bigger one is 6. What's the proportion I'll call that B, I'll call that F. What's the proportion, and the center is O, of OB over OF? Then you can work out OF over OB. What would the proportions be? You would take the two values that you know, right? You'd say 2 over 6, and it simplifies to 1 over 3. But if I write it as OF over OB, this is 6 over 2, which is 3 over 1. But the one we just did, the proportion ends up as a surd. Okay, so that's all it is. It's just looking at the proportions and cross multiplying. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah, Bolo?
can you do one with completing the square, please?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Let me see how many minutes. We got 2 minutes. Okay, so I just need to pull up. I deleted the stuff we were doing yesterday, but we had lots of questions with completing the square. All right, I'm just gonna have to from my login. So let's say we're given x squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 14y is equal to 7. Okay, and they ask you to work out the radius and the center of the circle, right? When you're given something that looks like this, first things first is you have to complete the square. So they could have also given it to you in a different form. They could have said, okay, x squared plus y squared, 6x minus 14y minus 7 is equal to 0. If it's given to you like that, you'd have to then rearrange it and write it like this, okay? Now, when completing the square, I'm going to teach you the shorter method, right? The shorter method is, okay, we know what the general equation of a circle is. You know that you're going to have an x, then there's going to be a square there. Then you're going to have a y, but you know there's a square there, right? Now, to work out what's in these brackets, you look at this side. If this is a positive sign, that means this must also be positive. Then you take this value, okay, the b, and you divide it by 2. So 6 divided by 2, that would give us 3. So I've done the first part, okay, for the x. Then let's look at the y. Minus, this must also be minus 14, you divide that by 2, which becomes 7. Now, on the other side, you need to add the 2 squares. So you're going to take the square of 3. What's the square of 3? It is 9. Then you're going to take the square of negative 7, square that. That is
29.
right. And then you simplify what this is. 7 plus 9.
65.
Right, 65. So the center is negative 3 and 7. The radius is square root of 65. So we're about